Well, basically, it was a retelling of something that Dr. Wilson came and told the Bossier Chamber at the Transportation Summit last fall, and that is the intent, the agreement, the understanding. I'm not sure exactly which members of the delegation have gone along with this up until this point, is that the intent is to come and build a new 4-lane bridge, which is fine if you just assume that there's no additional usage left in the old bridge. But the intent also along with that is that the Department of Transportation wants to get out of the old Jimmie Davis bridge business, make it into a linear park, and then ask a consortium of local governments, including both cities, both parishes, and apparently the Port of Caddo Bossier, as maybe the River Waterway Commission as well, to form some sort of a local group that would take over the duties and responsibilities of managing and operating and securing and accepting the liability for this new, first ever in Louisiana, a linear park concept. Now, what I did not know and had not gotten information regarding until Friday was that to do that alone would, at a very minimum, cost $30 million.
Oh.
Which,
the maintenance?
No, the actual capital expense that they would expend in order to be able to make this linear bridge, or linear park rather, would be at least $30 million. One of the things that was shared at the meeting was that despite the fact that it would be, quote unquote, a pedestrian linear park at this point, because it would still technically be a bridge, the Department of Transportation, once they have expended the money to build the new 4-lane bridge, would come in and spend at a minimum $30 million, because the bridge itself, according to their testimony, is still structurally sound and still has to be maintained as a usable bridge in the event, for instance, if you have to go and send an ambulance or a fire truck up on the bridge for some emergency purpose. It still has to be able to meet bridge standards. In order to do that, they would have to expend a minimum of $30 million in capital dollars just to put a new deck on it and all the other things that they would do. Now,
Cedric, is this to a much bigger scale a dog park to you? It sounds like it. Good idea, bad use of money.
I think, yes, it's a good idea, but it's a very poor use of public resources, especially given the fact that in driving to the meeting on Friday morning, I passed on 3132, a place just east of Jewella, where there's still asphalt from where concrete should be, when we had a rupture in that road system almost a decade ago. And we're still patching it with asphalt. I also passed an exit ramp with a retaining wall that's still being held up from falling over by piles of dirt that DOTD goes and puts against it every day to keep it from falling over. And so to go and hear that as a part of this plan, after we've expended the $100+ million to build a new 4-lane bridge, that we're going to put $30 million into the old bridge for the purpose of converting it into a linear park, to me just sounds like a horrible waste of resources that only gets worse when you ask Shreveport, Bossier to now get into the old bridge business by accepting the responsibility for maintaining and operating and securing and being liable for what happens with this situation at this point going forward. And again, that $30 million is just the minimum. And to quote the staff person, how much more it would cost after that would depend upon the types of amenities that we would want to have. For instance, he said that concrete benches on the bridge would be cheaper, say, than teak wood benches. And also there would be an option for elevators, similar to the linear bridge that's in Nashville, that would accommodate the folks who have ADA issues and what have you, which, again...
or did you just say elevators?
I said elevators.
On a 60-year-old structure.
On a 60-year-old structure.
Pardon me, Cedric. Pardon me. That was something that Mayor Chandler had brought up a week ago Friday, when he when he questioned the wisdom of this entire plan. He'd said just the cost of making it ADA accessible alone sounds a little crazy.
which makes you wonder, how did it get to a point to where you have, and I have not been in many years, probably since there were natural disasters and what have you, where I saw that many locally elected officials in one room all at one time, all for one purpose. The question I have is, again, the secretary came here last fall and detailed to the Bossier Chamber, that transportation summit, his intentions to do that. Obviously, I expressed some concerns at that point. And still, apparently, those went, they went unresponded to, because I sent correspondence to the secretary at that time asking some of the questions that I got answers to on Friday. And yet we are here at this point now where essentially I think the intention of Friday's meeting was to inform the locals of the intent and to begin the process of trying to form this consortium of folks that would get together and actually take responsibility for doing this. And it is, in my estimation, just simply utterly ridiculous.
State Representative Alan Seabaugh on our show about a week ago had the following idea. He said, why don't we just have it undeclared a historic site, a historic building, if you will, and just knock it down? Is that the worst idea in the world?
Well, no, it is not. And here's what is a sad revelation. And I'm glad to hear that apparently Rep. Seabaugh has been put under this impression because so was Representative Dodie Horton as well as others who were in that meeting. The truth of the matter is, at this point, is that the bridge itself does not yet have a historic designation. What they said is that throughout the environmental process, that was the desire of the folks that they talked to. And that became the preferred direction in which this process has been headed. So while it is over 50 years old and has some historic dimensions to it and could conceivably be declared historic, it is not at this point in time. And if we say, no, we do not want to proceed with doing all of the technical work necessary to get it to that state, then it does not get to that point. And as Tom Salazar, president of the Bossier Chamber, pointed out in some of his comments, he said the bridge downtown, the Texas Street Bridge, the Long Island Bridge, is 39 years older than this bridge. It has been repurposed and reused. But the bottom line of it is that we do not have to have any sort of historic issues with regard to this unless we impose them upon ourselves. And so if we do not do that, then we are free to demolish the bridge and go forward with a new 4-lane bridge, if that is the consensus of what it is that we should do.
So why at some level the DOTD office, Dr. Wilson, maybe at the federal level, I don't know, you explain to us. Why is there this big push for this linear bridge that everybody is going, I don't think that's that good an idea? Who wants it so bad that they're trying to steamroll people? And do you feel like you're getting steamrolled?
I think that certainly we're being steamrolled, and I think those are questions that Dr. Wilson should answer, and those who organized Friday's meeting should answer, and those who have yet to respond to the issues I raised last year regarding this issue after Dr. Wilson came here and made his comments at the Bossier Transportation Summit, where you had a room full of leaders from across Northwest Louisiana who sat and heard the same thing that I did. In fact, that very speech, that program, is preserved on YouTube, so you can go back and hear it. I mean, that's how I knew at that time that the way in which he was conveying the possibility of this being an option for us was that he referenced something that I'd heard of before, had not yet visited, and that's the High Line Bridge was the example he used at that time up in New York City. And at that point, I looked it up and said, this is a thing that has an operating budget every year of $12 million and is in the midst of Manhattan that's surrounded by 8 million people. That's twice as many people in the entire state of Louisiana. So this is not an applicable parallel. Well, for Friday, they used two additional examples. One, the bridge in Nashville that I referenced earlier, and another one that's in Cincinnati. In both of those instances, one, they don't have the types of steep angles on them that ours does. And number two, they're both connecting central business districts in much larger cities that are already highly populated and have a great deal of traffic footwise already.
Cedric, we're about to run out of time. Our last 30 seconds. Did you hear anything about Shreveport's broke? How much is it going to cost to maintain this bridge for Shreveport and Bossier? Did you hear those figures?
That question was asked by me and several others, and again, it went unanswered. And I followed it up with an email to department on Friday after the meeting, asking that information be forwarded as quickly as possible. And again, their answer was it depends upon the level and extent to which you want to program it and operate it. So if you want it open 7 days a week, that's one number. If you want it open 3 days a week or just on weekends, that's another number. And again, the type and level of amenities and programming you want to do to it is another number.
Well, we need to see those numbers, yeah.
Well, none of it should even be a consideration at this point because we do not need local government getting into the old Jimmie Davis Bridge business.